So, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ross Lauder. I'm responsible for running the Dublin hub and help run an agency called Get Focused. And I've been asked to speak on growth-driven design this afternoon. I hope you're all comfortable because the HubSpot training is 13 and a half hours, and if we were to go through the whole thing, we'd be here a while. So, I'm going to lower the tone in this delightful venue this afternoon quite considerably and tell you what this is really about. Lead generation is a little bit like teenage sex. Everybody says they're doing it. Most of them are lying. And the people that are actually doing it are doing it very, very badly. So, who here has a website? Hands up. Okay. Those with your hands not up, you're clearly not telling the truth, so that's fine. Your website is your number one sales guy. The job of your website is to bring in qualified buyers into your sales funnel. Traditionally, what most people do is they turn to the person that comes to their website and says, I'm awesome, I've got all these credentials, I'm great at what I do, you should totally buy from me. And that, in reality, just does not produce results. If you were to turn to the person beside you and say that exact phrase, I wouldn't see many transactions happening in this room. And the reason for that is because you're not adding any value at all to your customer base. And there's no real accountability for websites today. It's far too easy just to throw one up. Most people can't tell you why they have one. Who spent 5K on their website in the last year? Hands up. 10K? Has anybody spent more than 100K on their website in the last 12 months? Okay. So the guys who spent 5K, 10K, have you calculated what that's brought you back in business? I doubt it. Most businesses take 3 to 5 months to produce a new website. And during that period of time, they pine over the design, they pine over what it should look like, the color scheme. We're going to use this hexadecimal color, we're going to use that particular graphic, we're going to put this here and that there. But they never actually define what it is success looks like on their website. An employee in a business has one of two jobs. Number one, you save money for the company. Number two, you generate money for the company. Why is this not true of websites? Where have we ever asked a website what it's done for me lately, as Paula Abdul might say? So we did a quick survey of some of the people that we have worked with, some of our prospects and so forth, and we uncovered the following, which wasn't actually utterly startling when we came down to think about it. 54% of people had developed a website in the last 2 years. 72% of them had no good lead gen on their old or their new website. Can anybody tell me what they think the worst possible known to man call to action you can have on your website is? Anyone? Perfect, yeah. And that's what we see the most of the time. And it's this idea of you'll normally see a hero image across the middle of the website with a nice graphic, maybe some pretty people. Usually people at an award ceremony, they'll have accreditations. And I'm not saying those things aren't valuable, but they have a place on a website. They're what I call second-level qualifications. That's when you're in a situation of a conversation around a potential problem being solved. We talked about personas and pains a little bit earlier. Louder, much better. Okay, good. We talked about personas and being in that sales conversation a little bit earlier. But that's not what you say on the first date. As my colleague likes to say in meetings, and he said it only this week, it's a bit like going up to a girl or a guy in a nightclub and saying, you could have this. You're not going to get the kind of reaction that you would hope for. And yeah, okay, it might be a numbers game, but I don't fancy your chances, and I'm not prepared to wait that long. So this is the kind of most startling one for me, I suppose, from this, is that 82% of folks, when we asked them an open question, could not cite a good enough reason for creating a new website or doing a redesign. Most people will say, well, we just felt like it wasn't really, representative of our brand or our image, or it was a bit tired, or we're doing a trade show and we want to have a new website, that kind of stuff. The reality is Kevin Costner was utterly wrong. If you build it, they will not come. They will only come when you develop good quality content that adds value, and as the Americans say, pays it forward, adds that value up front. And people were letting data get in the way of a really, really bad website. Don't want to talk about the data, not important, not my job. And when you develop a new website, the traditional approach is, okay, let's engage an agency, get some creative involved, we'll pine over those colors, we'll do nothing for a couple of weeks, we'll set a timeline of 6 to 9 months, we'll code the HTML in the background, and when it comes to turning it on, we'll flip the switch and hope for the best. Has anyone had that experience? Okay, a few nods, okay. Absolutely classic. It happens about 75% of the time from some of the war stories that we've had. Normally, it'll run over time, it'll run over budget, and it's painful. And most people say, yeah, we like it now, but to get there was really, really difficult in the first place. So here's the typical roadmap of what normal website design looks like. On the y-axis, you have an impact on the business when you actually decide to measure it over the time frame. And the average cycle is about 2 years. So let's take a short period of time here being 3 months. We have a traditional website. We leave it sit there for 2 years. Maybe we add content to it, maybe we don't. We have this epiphany, we need a new website. We go through a 3 to 9 month cycle. We have a new website. And stuff happens here which is not defined. You'll notice how there's no KPIs. There's nothing here mentioned on the left-hand side on the y-axis. And then we'll go through another 2-year period. We'll have the same epiphany again. We go through a new design, and we hope to God that actually it'll produce some results for us at the end of the day. And very much like this philosophy of inbound, it used to be that the power lay with the salesperson in traditional marketing context. So you drive somebody into a department store, into a big B2B business, it really didn't matter. But you beg the sales guy for information. Please tell me about your product. Please tell me about your features. Please tell me about how wonderful it is and why I should use it. And that's very much the case with traditional web design. The designer is this guy right here. He's a propeller head, not to stereotype, but he's a guy who knows technology, believes in what he does. He's clearly passionate about what he does day to day, but he's calling the shots from a technology perspective. He's deciding what goes into the website and what doesn't go on the website based on what he believes in and not on what the business needs or what people are actually going to get value from. So website driven around growth-driven design is this really, really simple concept of analyzing what it is that's working on your current websites, and I'm going to be sharing with you some tools at the end today where we can put some hard and fast numbers behind the sections that are actually performing. Then we decide what we'll scoop up from a low-hanging fruit perspective, and then start to iterate on those to improve upon the areas that we can gain the most value from in the short term, and create this alliance between sales and marketing to actually deliver leads, and the kind of leads that are actually going to be more qualified and are going to close in a more timely manner. So what happened traditionally, as I said, was folks would say, we have all of these things on our website, and there was one person's job to find a new home on the new website for that particular feature. But nobody actually asked the question of, well, what does B actually do for us? Is that a page that's no longer relevant? Is it a tool that we no longer use? What value does that add to my persona? So some of the other guys this afternoon were talking about personas, pains, keyword iterations. That's the juice of deciding what somebody will do when they get there. But do we know that they actually do anything when they get there? What's the context of that feature in relation to the results that we're actually trying to get from the website? How do we measure this? Design is a very intangible thing. How can we put some numbers behind this intangible and make it actually deliver for us? How do we communicate to the business that we actually did a good job? And it's not a matter of going into the boss's office with our laptop, opening it up and saying, doesn't this look pretty? And why don't we actually have a KPI around a website build project? And that process begins with the user in mind. So putting yourself in the shoes of your typical user. and asking what it is they want from you. So typically when we interview people, we ask them a question of, when somebody comes to your website, first thing I want you to do is describe them to me. So tell me why they're a perfect customer for you and what you want them to do. And the normal answer you'll get is, well, there's somebody between 15 and 75, and they're interested in the following. And I want them to contact us. And the smart answer is, well, the Yellow Pages does a wonderful job of listing telephone numbers, and if you want that to be the case, why haven't you taken an ad with them? So when you peel back the onion a bit and unpack what it is that you want them to do and the types of problems you solve, it's this idea of giving away the driving lessons for free on your website, so showing people the rules of the road, showing them how the vehicle works. But if they want to drive, you guys sell cars. That's what you do at the end of the day. So put yourself in your perfect customer's shoes and start to play around with some test bed pages. If you did nothing else, create a landing page that gives away a content asset like an ebook, a video, a webinar series, some education that helps qualify your buyers to what it is you deliver to the world and the problem you solve for people. We break it down into 3 component parts: a strategy, a launchpad website, which is really a very agile way of launching a testbed website. It's live, but it's not a finished article. Done is better than perfect. And I will say that again and again and again. You're not going to have people ever come to you and say, well, I didn't like the blue on your homepage. That's not what it's about. What it's about is insisting on getting results from your website based on real user data and continually improving on that process in a very iterative fashion. So that looks like defining your audience, quantifying the value that you're going to bring to that audience, what user features they're going to make the most use of, how are we going to obsess day and night about CRO, what does that look like, where are people converting, is a trial-based lead, is a contact us more qualified than somebody who downloads an ebook, a white paper, somebody who turns up to our event. What does that actually look like, and what are the stages we're going to take people through in order to get to that end result of having a really qualified conversation with us? When they're there, how do we bring them back? How can we personalize the experience for that person without being super creepy? What does that subtlety look like? How can you, for example, present prices in different currencies, different languages, different elements of the website? One of the things we're experimenting at the moment is with our new blog is return visitors are split into personas, and they only get shown information based on the persona that they've identified with on their first conversion option. So now we're only ever showing people relevant content relative to what they've expressed an interest in and they've told us. What does the asset profile look like that we need to build? What ebooks do we need? What white papers do we need? What video content, etc.? And how can we turn these guys into evangelists of our business over time? The thing I would stress is don't try and boil the ocean. Pick up a handful of elements that you know work based on typically about a 30 to 60 day window where you've gathered some good quality data that you can now make some decisions upon. And you build a map. You build a map of what you've decided will go across to your website, and in fact, to your new website. And in fact, it may be the case that you don't bring everything across and you iterate on some features as they come across to the new site. And don't be afraid to have a mishmash of old versus new. The results are quite different. You can now show impact on an ongoing basis, monthly, weekly, whatever that time frame may be, and achieve this hockey stick effect of being able to get results. And that impact, you'd be damn sure, is lead generation rather than an intangible result on your site. I'll wrap up quickly. Old versus new. Traditional website design was based upon upfront costs and exorbitant drain on resources and time based on assumptions and no data, whereas growth-driven design is spread over time, launch quick, you can improve upon it on a regular basis. You make decisions based on the data you have proven from the tools that you've installed to analyze that, and you continually improve on it. You have an initial investment, and you iterate on a monthly basis, rather than this idea of I'm going to spend 25K on my website, half of that's up front, and that's that. Whereas you can have a less of an expense up front and iterate on that monthly until it's actually where you need it to go. The 3 tools I wanted to share with you were Inspectlet, Hotjar, and Talk.to. If you're not using these right now, you should. They're free up until a certain traffic number of circa 20K, and you're not going to use that in an initial engagement anyway. Inspectlet is a fantastic tool. What Inspectlet will do is record the sessions that people experience on your website. So I'm a user. You'll see where they drag their mouse. You'll see what pages they go to, what they click on, etc. So it's as if you're standing over their shoulder. Hotjar is a heat mapping tool. Hotjar will allow you to produce a visual diagram of each page on your site and what people are clicking on. So you might notice certain pictures are cold, and you'll also notice that maybe some areas which may not be a button people are trying to click on, they'll be highlighted in various shades of red, etc. And Talk.to is a great chat tool that's free that will allow people to interact with you and ask questions when prompted when they land on a page. It's also 100% free. That's going to give you some really quality data you can now make decisions upon to put on your wish list and your menu for your new website as and when you need to develop it. Thank you very much.